I was thinking while you were talking, Phil, if you get to be governor with a 19 ACT, that means Secretary of State's a 15. Too long in our state, and I'll get to my prepared remarks here in a second, but too long in our state we have said we need to do something about education. Listen to Governor Bryant. We need to do something. He is going to be fighting a lot of entrenched people here, other ideas, that kind of thing, to keep the status quo. We need to support this plan. We need to get out, every single one of us, and make sure the legislature understands we're not going to keep the status quo because it's not working. And too many of us are blessed to have grandchildren and children that are going to rely on the decisions that he's making. We need to get behind Governor Bryant's plan. Speaking of the legislature, thank you. You know, this year it took a couple of legislators less than 24 hours in the legislative session to start a process to take money away from school children. Only 2 days to get started on that. They want to take oversight for 16th section. Blake was just talking about that, and I want to talk about it. They want to take oversight for 16th section away from any statewide official. They want to give it back to school boards, just the local school boards. They want to go back to sweetheart deals, friendly deals on the side, no bid contracts, just like it used to be just a few years ago. Since I took office on 16th section land, the revenue has increased by $17 million a year, and as you well know, that's in a down economy. It's up from $54 million a year in 2007 to $71 million a year just this last year. In addition to that, North Mississippi, who sold its 16th section lands, they get another $20 million in lieu payments for that. What 16th section lands are is a $91 million business, and it needs to be run like a business. We've increased our oil and gas revenue from 1/8 to 3/16. That will provide oil and gas royalty income for generations of Mississippi school children. We audit oil and gas payments. One school district just got a check for $253,000. That was erroneously calculated by the company. One school received just that much money, and as we go through, we'll be looking at the others. We audit timber cuts from the Secretary of State's office. One man's been indicted. We intend to have him prosecuted for stealing timber from Mississippi children. We help manage with the Mississippi Forestry Commission over $1 billion of timber assets across the state. And we now have a viable management plan for every section in the state, when we're going to cut, when we're going to harvest, who we're going to sell to. Timber revenues are up $12 million a year since I started taking over that. There's not one school board that I know of that has a certified forester as a member. The relationship between the Mississippi Forestry Commission, the Secretary of State's office, and the local school boards are producing revenue like we've never seen before on a $1 billion asset. We manage 640,000 acres of 16th section land. It's your land. We make every transaction transparent. You want to know how much somebody paid for a timber cut? You can go on my website. What was the hunting lease? What was the commercial lease? Go on my website. It's all there. It never was there before. So you'll know how much is somebody's paying for your land, your timber, and your oil and gas revenues. We're becoming the source where people look to see comparables, and they should be. But instead of running this like a business, there are just a few people in the legislature who want to run it just like their own candy store, just like it used to be. You need to listen to me. Make no mistake, if we go back to sweetheart deals, just like we used to have, there's still going to be the cost of education. And that cost of education is going to be paid by you if we go back. When you talk to your legislators, when you're in the Capitol today, you ask each and one of them to commit to running your 16th section land like the $91 million a year business it is. Don't let them go back to the old ways. Speaking of legislation, and I appreciate the fact that Blake was giving us a compliment on that, I want to cover just a couple of things. Mark's here in the front, and he's very familiar with this. The first is, in our university system, about 80% of the revenue for research comes from the federal government. 80% of that. They've had a dramatic loss in revenue. In the last 2 years alone, we have lost $178 million in research money in Mississippi universities. That's a staggering number for them to try to make up. Of that $178 million, that's a 30% decrease in just 2 years. Only 7% of all research comes from private business. In Mark's University, in the University of Mississippi, University of Southern Mississippi, all of those only get 7% of their revenues for research from private businesses. We need to incentivize you, Mississippi's businesses, to put the money back in our university system. That money's not going to be available there from the federal government anymore. This legislative session, we're proposing a SMART bill, Strengthen Mississippi Academic Research Business Act. The SMART Business Act. Under that, you will get a 25% rebate for every research dollar you sign on with the university. We need to keep our research where it is now, our university research, at world-class levels. We need to hold tuition costs down. Y'all saw in the paper today, Pell Grants are down. We need to keep the tuition costs down to make it available to our students. And we need to give students meaningful work experience, so when they get out, they've got something to sell, an education and work experience. That credit is going to be a key member of what we're going forward this year with our legislative agenda. There'll also be a headquarters and a relocation credit that will be proposed. That's to expand our headquarters in Mississippi, expand people that build within our businesses, within our borders. We're also going to propose an employee pass-through, where if you've got a jobs credit at your business, you can pass that through to your employees. That's an innovative way for you to pass through credits you're not using right now to employees who need the money. It's effectively a raise for the employee, and it gives you the full option of whether to take it at the corporate or LLC level or give it to your employees. That's the kind of things I want the decision for you to make, to be in your hands. With fiscal cliffs and debt ceilings, uncertainty in our economy is what's the drag on your business. This year, Mississippi is projected to grow 1.4% this year. That's in pockets. The population centers will grow more. Some of our rural areas will grow less. The only thing the federal government was able to agree on was to raise your taxes just 2 weeks ago. Since I have been Secretary of State, I've reduced my budget by $1.5 million a year. The federal government has not reduced its budget by $1.5 million ever. We are coming to a critical juncture in the amount of debt that our country, that our businesses, and that our citizens can carry. And while I currently don't have a vote in what the federal government does, along with Governor Bryan, I have a duty and a responsibility to do our fiscal house right. I intend to do that, and I know all of the other members of the state and our legislature do as well. We'll have a balanced budget, just like you do, and we'll work hard to make sure your tax dollars are well spent. Thank y'all for having me. Y'all have a great day in the Capitol.